Hey Spider Nerds, welcome to the SpiderNerd.com podcast. I'm your host and webmaster, Jonathan Weber, and joining me today for the podcast is Mr. James Markin.
Hello.
What's up, James? What you been up to this week?
Just the same old, pretty much begging on any place with a help wanted sign asking for a job right now. And just managing Agent Girl Radio, and we had another busy week with the new executive producer news and even more drama with the original Green Ranger.
Oh, wonderful. I love drama. Not. Yeah. But as far as other co-hosts for this episode go, it's actually just us this week. Thomas is away on a school trip, so hope he's having fun there. Don't know where the hell he is. Don't really care. But hope he's having fun on his school trip. And as for myself this week, what have I been up to? I gotta say, this has been a fairly big week for me in terms of Spider-Man because I got my Roger Stern Spider-Man Omnibus finally. Woo! And I gotta say, that is one hell of a run. I've reread the first half of his amazing run, and I gotta say, that is one hell of a run. It's really, really good.
I'll wait for the essential.
I think don't they already have an essential out of Roger Stern's run?
Just the first half, like right when Hobgoblin comes out. That's the last volume.
Damn. Well, that's actually going to lead us very nicely into our first news topic today, in that this isn't just a Spider-Man news topic, but this is a news topic I know James holds very dear to his heart. James is a buyer of, or a consumer, I should say, of the Essential Spider-Man books, which are the black and white reprints of old issues. And those are no longer going to be being produced. They are canceling the Essential series. So basically, every Spider-Man Essential book is now, there aren't going to be any more of them. So, James, what are your thoughts on the Essentials being canceled?
It's kind of depressing because, like I told you before we started the show, this is what got me into Spider-Man. I mean, seeing the first volume of Essentials and reading those early Steve Ditko, Stan Lee issues, and they got me into other Marvel characters like the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Daredevil, so on and so on. And I know some people complain about the books because they were in black and white, and you should better off getting a Masterworks or an Omnibus. But if it was a cheap way of getting a lot of issues, and it was just a really good way for me to get into characters, and you get to read a whole era of Spider-Man or a run or a different decade, and it went all the way up to the 80s for most books, I think, and it's going to be really sad to see it go because, like I said, it was a cheap way to get people into the books. If they didn't want to tell your friend if they want to read like 60s Spider-Man or 70s Daredevil without telling them, yeah, you got to go buy a lot of reprints in your local comic shop or get an omnibus or what of it. You can just, for on Amazon for like $10, get the Essential, and you get like 20, 30 issues in there.
Yeah, I personally don't own any of the Essentials. I mean, I don't know why. I have this thing, and I mentioned this to James before the show. I have this thing where art is in black and white, I just can't differentiate like some characters from other characters. Like I've tried reading Essentials like at like my local comic shop. I try to, burn steel or whatever, and I've like looked through them and it's like, okay, I can't tell Gwen apart from Mary Jane. I can't tell Peter apart from other characters. And I don't know why, because they should have distinguishing features about them. Yeah, but for some reason I just can't tell them apart. I don't know why.
Gwen's hair is all white in the Essentials because it's from the blonde ink, and Mary Jane is mostly black with the little highlights in there because that's where the red would have came in. How can you not tell that apart?
I am stupid. This has been established. This has been established on basically every episode of this show. But you know what? I mean, that was just an example I threw out. I probably could tell them apart if I wanted to, but it's just like, for some reason, I have trouble differentiating things when art is in black and white. But you know what? For those people who do collect the Essentials like James, and, for those people who really enjoy the Essentials, I do kind of feel sorry for them because now they're not going to have that cheap way of collecting old Spider-Man issues. So it is really kind of a shame that the Essentials are being kind of let go of, to use a phrase that I just randomly pulled out of my ass. But James, how many of the Essentials do you actually own?
I got most of the Spider-Man ones again now because I lost most of them when we moved. But I recently just purchased 2 and 5, so I got every Spider-Man one of Amazing. I still need to get a Web of Spider-Man and stuff like that. I got the first few volumes of Fantastic Four because I'm starting to get into those. I got an X-Men one, the first Daredevil one, the first Iron Man one, and a Batman equivalent of it from the DC line of Showcase. It was pretty much the same thing as Essential from the pretty much.
All right. And so you've read how far up do the Essentials go? From what I hear, they go up through like the Roger Stern run or something.
Yeah, Spider-Man, it's the 80s, depending on what series it is. Like Web, it's like all the way up until like Kraven's Last Hunt, I think they stop on in. But for Amazing Run, it's like Roger Stern, like right when Hobgoblin and other books, it's right around that time period too.
Yeah, I mean, I've read all of those old issues, and like I've said, I got my Roger Stern Spider-Man Omnibus this week, so I've especially been rereading the Roger Stern stuff. I've read all those issues, and I have most of them in print form through either Masterworks, Omnibus, or just single issues that I got off of eBay, or even trade paperbacks. So I don't really see a need for me to buy any of the Essentials, but you know what? For those of you who don't have a lot of money, you know, or who may not have a job or a way of getting disposable income, the Essentials were a good option for you. So it is a shame that the Essentials are being canceled. So, James, final thoughts on the Essentials going down?
I'm going to miss them, and I hope that does not mean, because I'm already starting to see it like on eBay and stuff like that and other sites for other issues that I can't find on like Amazon or something, and they're already being shopped for like $50, $60 now with this news. And it's ridiculous for stuff that are price tagged at $20 and earlier you can get on Amazon for $10 are now being like $50, $60 because, oh my God, the line's canceled. These are going to be collector's items now when they're probably not. Mine are barely, some of them are falling apart because of how cheap they're made.
And you said to me before the show that you discovered a coffee stain in a brand new Essential that you just got.
Oh yeah, the Fantastic Four one I got. I just went through the pages, and during the Ant-Man story, there's a random brown, almost coffee stain looking. I hope it's a coffee stain because it's brown. If it's anything else, I'm going to be disgusted.
All right, but so final thoughts on Essentials being canceled. It's a shame, but you know what? I guess it was coming. You know, it happens, so we're just gonna have to deal with it. But tackling other news now, this is probably the biggest piece of news that came out this week. This blew up all over the internet. Spider-Man breakdancing or whatever with a little baby Spider-Man. They're promoting Evian water or something. They're like trying to sell water with this shit, and they're basically Spider-Man is having a dance off with a baby version of himself. James, you saw the commercial probably more times than I did. Can you describe it for the listeners?
I think I gotta admit it. I only saw it one time.
Damn it, so did I. So.
And the only part I can remember is that he's upside down at one point with the baby, and they're like mimicking each other's moves or something like that.
Because that's the screenshot on the YouTube video before you play it. That's probably why.
That's why.
But yeah, this commercial, I mean, I guess it's kind of cool. I don't really have any big thoughts on it. I mean, it shows Spider-Man swinging a bit. You get some cool shots from the film. But then you see Spider-Man looking over into a window. He webs himself down, upside down, and he sees a baby version of himself, and he's like, what the hell? And basically, they just sort of have a little bit of a dance-off, but you know what? Do we have any thoughts on this commercial at all, other than it blew up on the internet?
Well, I taken it. The joke is the water's so good it makes you look like a baby again, like because it's him when he's looking at his own reflection. It's not an actual baby Spider-Man hanging out with him. It's him with. So, I'm just thinking, what the hell's going on here? I mean, I'm rewatching it now, and he's jumping rope with the web. He's making the bridge with the web, and
he's doing the moonwalk.
Yeah, it's.
That was a big boy band move there. The twirl. That was a boy band move. Come on, Spidey, you can go up. You can go above that move.
Like I just don't get the commercial. It's like, how does any of this make me want to buy water?
That's what I don't get either. It's like, where do you get water out of Spider-Man? I mean, it's like, I know human beings are made up of what, majority % water, but still.
Well, like they should have shown him like as Peter Parker taking a sip of the water, and then he looks in the mirror and sees the baby self, and then the narrator says, "It makes you feel young again," or something stupid like that.
Or they could have just even had him just take his mask off and sip the water, like after he's done the dance off, and say, "Wow, this is refreshing after a workout or something." You could have even done that, and it probably still would have worked. I don't know how that would make the baby fit into it, but...
Well, that's why I went with the whole "it makes you feel young again," and since Peter Parker's already a teenager, the younger he'll get is probably a baby.
Yeah, but thoughts on this commercial? It's interesting, I guess. It's really kind of weird. I've never seen a Spider-Man commercial like this, but it's an interesting one. It just surprises me that this blew up all over the internet. It's like, I saw this on Facebook, Yahoo, I saw this everywhere, and it was just, I don't know why. I honestly don't.
This is blowing up bigger than, dare I say it, those meme-captured photos from the 60 TV shows where people make, like, demotivational posters out of him saying, like, "This is how many shits I give," and it's him leaning over whatever. It looks like he's about to poop on somebody because he's leaning over on the villain when he's about to web swing or whatever it is.
Oh, gosh. That's not an image I need in my head.
There's a lot of funny ones, like it's him on a chimney and he's bending over it, and he's crouching to fight or something, or as soon as Spider-Man has power, and it's like from the 60s TV show, and the person says, "Little Jimmy's not going to get the present he wanted for Christmas," or something.
Oh, gosh. That's disturbing.
And there's like the old drawings of birds in the old 60s cartoons, how they look like, V's and mustaches, where it's like, Spider-Man's like, "I have fought goblins and octopuses, but my greatest enemies, flying mustaches."
Flying mustaches.
They're funny. You just type in 60s Spider-Man memes and you'll find 1,000 of these. Like, there's one where it's like he's being like electrocuted or something, so he's freaking out. It looks like, but where his hands are at on his chest, it's right near where the spider emblem is, and it's like, "Ew, quickly, get it off me, get it off me."
All right. So I guess we'll just go with our final thoughts on this baby Spider-Man commercial.
WTF.
Yeah, what the hell was this? It's like, it's The Amazing Baby and Me 2. It's what it's called, and it's just, what the hell? Where do you get the idea of Spider-Man having a dance-off with himself? Just where do you get that idea? I don't know. This was probably like a cocaine idea or something, but whatever. But as we move along here, we got more Spider-Man news this week. I guess sticking with the movie movie video games. We got a new Amazing Spider-Man 2 game trailer this week. Basically, this just showed off all the villains that are going to be in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. There's not too much to talk about here, but I guess we can just go through some of the villains that are going to be here and I guess just give our thoughts on them. But as we go through the trailer, here we go. As soon as it loads here, we see Oscorp, all that shit. We see the Kingpin. I think the Kingpin could be a cool villain to see in a Spider-Man movie video game. I think we saw him in the Spider-Man 3 Xbox 360 game. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
he was in there.
Yeah, I think we've seen him before, and I think the Kingpin could be a very interesting villain to see in a video game. Definitely be one that'd be interesting to fight because, your punches probably can't hurt him. But whatever. But, James, do you have any thoughts on the Kingpin being in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game?
I like the design. It has a very classic, almost like the 90s cartoon look to him with the purple under of his tuxedo or suit, you want to say, whatever he's wearing. I just don't kind of like how they are going with the whole, he's supposed to be big and muscular Kingpin, and that's why he's so big, but here with the kind of like triple chin going on, it just looks like just a fat guy in a suit.
Yeah, the Kingpin is not supposed to be portrayed as your average fat guy. The Kingpin's supposed to be 350 pounds of muscle, according to the animated series. And according to the animated series, approximately 2% of my body mass is fat. That was a terrible impression. I'm sorry. But so he's not really supposed to be portrayed as a big fat guy. He's supposed to be portrayed as a big muscular guy. So that's kind of a problem I have. But I think the Kingpin could be an interesting villain to see in the game. That could be fun.
Yeah.
And as we move along here, we get the Black Cat. The Black Cat, could they make her look any more slutty? Probably not. Because she's got her, boobs out and everything. So they've made her look slightly slutty here. But James, thoughts on the Black Cat being in the game?
Well, isn't Felicia Hardy in the movie? So that's kind of more of a tie into the movie, isn't it?
There's a rumor that Felicity Jones is going to be playing Felicia Hardy, but it's not confirmed yet. We have no official confirmation as to whether or not Felicia Hardy / Black Cat will be in the film. But, I don't really want to see her in the film because we've got so much going on in Amazing Spider-Man 2 already, so...
Cut out not cutting out Mary Jane and kept in Black Cat, that would look kind of weird, I think. Because why would you, if you're going to cut out any of the girls, you think you would cut out Felicia Hardy and keep Mary Jane in?
Yeah, because Mary Jane's easily the most well-known Spider-Man love interest.
Yeah.
Especially after the Raimi movies and the animated series and everything, but Gwen's a little bit lesser known, but people know her now because of the Amazing Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
But we see Electro, nothing really to talk about there because Electro's obviously going to be in the film. We get, I think that's Harry Osborn with the blonde hair and the Bieber cut. So we get Harry Osborn, obviously, we get to see him. There's a shot here that a lot of people are thinking maybe could be from Carnage. There's a guy with red kind of ooze on his arm. Do we think that's Carnage or anything?
It's got to be Carnage because he's got the mechanical. He's a redheaded guy. He's got a mechanical, not mechanical, but maniac laugh. There, something can have come out normally. Duh.
Maniacal.
Yeah. And he's got this ooze going on in his arms. It's got to be Carnage.
Yeah, it would not surprise me at all if this was Carnage, but would we want to see Carnage in the Spider-Man movie game, or do we think that's a bad idea introducing him before Venom, or what do we think about this?
It depends on how they do it, because the way it looks like how the movie's setting up the Venom spin-off is, if you notice that on one of the Oscorp computers, it says Venom Project or whatever it is. So if they're setting it up differently in the movies, having Carnage's origin being different too is no big deal to me.
Yeah, if they do it well, I think they could maybe pull it off. I'll just have to wait and see until the actual game comes out. But the final villain that we see in this trailer is Kraven the Hunter. We've seen him in previous trailers. Thoughts on Kraven being in the game?
We already know he's in the game because of the first trailer, so there's not really much new to that. I just kind of like how they're doing the whole kind of apprentice, teacher role with him and Peter, instead of the normal, I'm here to hunt you because I hunt all animals and because you're half spider now. Well, tough luck for you.
Yeah, I think the apprentice storyline could be interesting. I'm not quite sure how it's going to go down, but again, we have to wait until the game comes out. The game comes out April 29th, so ultimately we will just have to wait and see. But I think Kraven could be an interesting villain to see in the game. Maybe he's the final boss, like he betrays Spider-Man at the end, or maybe he's an ally. Maybe they've turned Kraven into an ally in this game. I don't know, but this...
So, the way I can see it going is there might be a level where he wants Spider-Man to kill somebody, and, Peter won't do it. And then he feels betrayed because Peter didn't kill the guy, and a hunter kills their prey or whatever, so now he's going after Spider-Man.
It's possible. I could see that. But again, we will just have to wait and see until the game comes out. But I guess we'll just do final thoughts on this trailer, James.
It's pretty good. I'm trying to figure out why does Harry Osborn look like Justin Bieber, but...
Yeah, seriously, what the hell is up with the Bieber cut? Who came up with that idea? Seriously, I want to know.
Well, you think they would have had enough time to notice what the haircut looks like in the movie.
Yeah, Harry Osborn, Bieber haircut doesn't make any sense. Maybe that's not the Bieber haircut and they're trying to emulate an emo look, but I've seen better emo looks than that. So here we go. That's going to be our final thoughts on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game trailer. So, but James, are you going to be picking this game up?
Oh, I'm planning on it.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to pick it up. Like I've said on previous podcasts, not really a big gamer, so it's probably not going to be making its way into my possession. But, yeah, you know what? This is a good trailer. You know, it jazzed me. It's a good trailer. But our final piece of non-spoiler news for the day is we got some preview art for Amazing Spider-Man #1, which is due out April 30th. Courtesy of CBR, we've received some preview images of it. And the one I really want to talk about is this one pic of Spider-Man swinging around in New York City. It's drawn by Humberto Ramos. And I got to say, I really, really like Ramos's work here. Ramos, to me, is kicking ass on Amazing Spider-Man so far. With everything we've seen, from the covers to the preview art that we've seen for the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man relaunch, Ramos is seriously kicking some ass here. So, James, thoughts on this preview art here?
Yeah, I kind of like the panel you're bringing up, the big splash page of him web swinging. It looks pretty nice, and I like the spider logo on him. The head, I got kind of a problem with because it's got this really weird really curvy shape to it that can no way be a human head, but everything else is pretty nice.
Mid-drink, of course, he finishes, but, oh, that sounded bad. But, as far as I go for this, I really like this preview art. I'm really digging the way Ramos is drawing Spider-Man. I think it's very, very solid. It kind of reminds me a bit of Stegman's art here, a little bit. And for those of you who may not know, I really like Stegman's art. He's not my favorite artist on Superior Spider-Man. Excuse me.
He was mine.
Yeah, he's James' favorite artist, and I think he was actually Thomas's favorite artist too. But I really do think Ramos is emulating Stegman's art here, and you know what? It looks fairly solid. In terms of the other two images, they're just basic flashback images to Amazing Fantasy 15. They're not really anything big or special. I will say, though, I'm not liking the way he's drawing Peter Parker on this. Parker...
Man, not really important. There's another person who got bit by the spider. I think that's setting up a villain.
Yeah. It's possible. It is possible that someone else got bit by the... Well, yeah, I mean, we see someone else got bit by a spider. Do we maybe have any speculation on who that is?
Probably one of the... I can only guess, maybe one of the Spider Women that's been around for 100 times, or whatever it is. My only beef with it is, they have done this story 100 times before, and even ironic enough, every time before a reboot, where they have this origin story where it's like, somebody else also got bit the same day Peter did, and now they're either a villain, or an unknown hero, or just hiding the powers, or weird stuff, and it's like, what, how many people did this spider bite before it finally died in Peter's hand?
Who knows? Obviously it didn't die in Peter's hand because it ended up biting someone else, and this preview art actually shows it dying on the ground. So, yeah, I guess that's not really a big canon thing anymore that it died in his hand. But whatever, I guess we'll just have to live with that.
Oh, he's looking at it in his hand, he drops it, and then it comes back alive and crawls and bites her, I guess.
Yeah, it's a girl that it actually bites too. So I guess we're gonna have a female villain. So another screwball possibly. Wonderful.
Well, I guess it was a Spider-Woman. That's my only guess.
Yeah.
Screwball wouldn't surprise me since she dressed up as Spider-Man a few times.
Brand new day, I'm guessing?
Yep.
Still haven't read it and probably won't read it for a long time because I hear it's an absolute clusterfuck.
Here's the storyline. A mob boss bookie who takes bets on superhero fights for the mob and supervillains decided to rig it by saying that Spider-Man would show up to fight some B-list villain, and in order to guarantee that Spider-Man would lose the fight, he had Screwball dressed up and just show up for a few minutes and jump around and leave and pretend to be scared. But then, of course, the real Spider-Man shows up and goes, "Clones? Scrolls? I don't know what's going on, but I have to stop this other Spider-Man." Or something stupid like that.
Oh, gosh, that's brand new day dialogue for you.
And then they're all like, "That Spider-Man's telling jokes. He's the real one."
Wonderful. That's classic brand new day storytelling for you right there. That's why I haven't really read much of it, because I don't want to experience that terribleness. But final thoughts on the preview art, James?
Like I said, for the most part, I like it. There's a few nitpicks I have with it with Ramos' art, like the head on the splash page where he's web shooting. I mean, just look at the shape. Where is his nose? There's nothing there for a nose. It's just all flat, curvy, like, ball.
Yeah, it's... I was going to say it kind of looks like a football head, but it's not even a football head. It's like a freaking... I don't even know what shape that is. That's like an oblong shape or something. I don't even know what an oblong is. That was just a random word that just came to my head. But that's a weird shape, I will give you that. But I kind of like this Ramos art. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of Ramos generally, but I'm actually kind of liking his work on Amazing Spider-Man from what we've seen of it so far. So, you know what? If he can keep this quality up, I'd be all for it. So, I guess that's going to do it for the non-spoiler news this week. So, tackling reviews now. We've got 4 issues to talk about this week. We got 1 current and 3 classic reviews. So, we'll start off with the current review of Ultimate Spider-Man number 200. And this is where I wish Thomas was here, because ultimately, Thomas is the big Ultimate guy, not me. So, he would have had a lot more to say about this issue than I probably will. But overall, I will still do my best to provide a very good review for all of you. So, Ultimate Spider-Man number 200, again, we're not doing a synopsis, so I'll just kind of break it down, what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I'll give the grade. Well, I'll give the grade first. I gave it an A. I actually really liked this issue. I felt that it was done fairly well, and I felt that it was executed fairly well. And those are kind of the same sentence, so I don't know why I just said that. But I felt that this issue was done fairly well, and I felt that a lot of it was very, very strong. First of all, I love the art in this issue. I mean, this issue was drawn by, let me just count them up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different artists. Dave Marquez, David LaFuente, Sarah Pichelli, Mark Brooks, Mark Bagley, and Andrew Hennessy. They each did a separate sequence or part of the issue. Dave Marquez did the main part of the issue, which looks absolutely gorgeous. I haven't really talked about Ultimate Comics Spider-Man with Miles Morales on this podcast, mainly because of the fact that I'm just not able to get into it. I just cannot get behind the character of Miles Morales at all. I'm going to be picking up Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man because I'm going to try to get into the character, but from what I read of Ultimate Comics Spider-Man Volume 2, I think it was, whatever Miles Morales series number was, I've not read it. Well, I have read some of it. I've not read all of it. But I have read some of it, and I just can't get behind the character at all. But I will admit, Dave Marquez's art is absolutely gorgeous, and I absolutely love it. The art in the issue is absolutely fantastic. Mary Jane looks good. Gwen, this is a pro for the issue for me. There's not the punk rock Gwen Stacy that we had in the early Ultimate issues, which I like. That is one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of Ultimate, is the aesthetic changes that they took. And ultimately, Gwen Stacy is one of those aesthetic changes that I just can't get past. And so, I'm glad to see her more like regular Gwen Stacy in this issue. Her kiss with, how do you pronounce this guy's name? Gonk or something? I literally think that is his name, Gonk. But, Gonke or Gonk or whatever, her kiss with Gonk was fairly sweet. It was good to see her actually kind of like return his affections because he made her a present. There were some good comedic moments in the issue, like the food part of it, where Tony Stark brings in all the food to the Peter Parker kind of remembrance party. I kind of liked that. That was a fairly funny moment. And then, of course, we get the series of 2-page spreads done by various artists with people reflecting on what they think Peter would have been had he lived this long. And ultimately, this is where the art really picks up. I mean, Dave Marquez's art is beautiful, but the art in this section of the issue... Sorry, I just stumbled over my words there. The art in this section of the issue was absolutely fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Every artist did a kick-ass job. You could tell whose style was what based on what they drew, and what the styles were. But you know what? Everyone absolutely kicked so many levels of ass with these 2-page spreads, and I just absolutely loved them throughout the entire time. And as we move along here, we got the party deciding to donate the food to a good cause, which was a nice way to remember Peter on the day of his death. It was a good way to remember him, and it was a good way to kind of honor him, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And then, of course, we finally get the last page with the cliffhanger of who is in the bushes. To be continued in Miles Morales Ultimate Spider-Man #1. The little cliffhanger at the end is the only part of the issue that let me down. And it's not even so much for the issue itself. It's more because of the solicitations. The solicitations for this issue promised us a big reveal, or like a big shock at the end of this issue. That was ultimately going to be leaving us, our jaws dropping to the floor. That wasn't really accomplished in this issue. There wasn't really a big shock. It's just, oh, well, who's in the bushes? So that's kind of more of a problem with the solicitations than anything. But ultimately, I didn't really like that, and I felt that was kind of weak. But it's not something that's going to make or break the issue. I still gave it an A, and so I still thought that this was a fairly good issue. So, James, do you have any thoughts on this issue? I know you haven't read it, but do you have any theories on who could be in the bushes or anything?
Well, there's two things I can say right now. One, I'm completely shocked that you're shocked that Marvel would release something and promise that it's the most shocking thing you ever saw, and it ends up being a letdown. I mean,
I wasn't shocked by it. I'm just disappointed once again because Marvel is just a bunch of liars.
Oh, DC does it too, trust me. DC promised the most shocking issue of Batman yet, and it's just a regular him fighting Joker issue or whatever. And I think it's Peter. It's got to be. It's him watching them. They're remembering what kind of man would Peter be if he was here today, and just so happens somebody's lurking in the bushes when they're saying what would Peter be like if he was here today.
Yes, so I won't ask you what grade you would give this issue because you obviously haven't read it, but you know what? I gave this issue an A. I guess we'll ask Thomas what he thought about this issue next week because he'll want to talk about it because he's the big Ultimate buff. I will say I'm a more of a 616 guy. I've never been the biggest fan of Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't dislike it in any way, but I think there are things about it that could have been done better. So I'm not the biggest fan of Ultimate Spider-Man, but you know what? It is still good. It is still a solid series. And you know what? I felt that this was a good way to celebrate the 200th issue of the series. And ultimately, I felt that it was done very well. So this issue gets an A out of me. So now we will move on to the classic reviews. And we're actually going to do these classic reviews a bit differently this time. Excuse me. We're going to break down the issues as we break down our current issue reviews. So we'll break it down, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then we'll give our grade. So, James, we're going to have you go first. What are your thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 18?
Just give me a second, because I had to pull it out of my essentials.
I see the joke there. He's crying because the essentials are...
Yeah, it was a joke.
See, I see what you did there, James. I see what you did there. That joke was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I know. But it's my terrible joke.
Yes, so at least...
You want me to start with the beginning of the book?
Yeah, you can just break it down. What'd you like, what'd you not like, and then give a grade.
I like the splash page of Jonah, like the whole pointing, fooled you, ha ha ha, I told you he was it's like that splash page is so Jonah, the whole, I told you he was a coward, I told you he wasn't really a hero, I told you. The splash page of pretty much all his villains and how they're all either jealous because they didn't do it or the Green Goblin's bragging about how he did it. And you got them to kind of parallel how you got Daredevil and the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men and everybody all like, why would Spider-Man quit? Why would he? He's one of our friends and pals and fellow superheroes. Why would he do that? And Flash, again, dresses up as Spider-Man is always hilarious in these early issues. Cause it's like, I know something that's going to be really cool. You know how there's a guy who either the cops will arrest on the spot or supervillains will try to kill? I'm going to dress up with him almost every other issue.
Yeah, that was. I'll talk about that when I do my review. But any other likes for this issue, James?
Just the Peter's once again trying to use, his likeness to get, a job now that he's kind of giving up the hero stick, and the guy just like blows smoke in his face, literally about it.
All right, so what did you not like about this issue, James?
Actually, not too much not to like about it. I mean, maybe the Betty running away from Peter because she always believes that he's sleeping with other women pretty much when all he does is say hi.
Hi, you are sleeping with her, aren't you? No, I'm not Michael Bay.
It's hilarious because if you do it, these early issues are like that, where he's like, he'll tell the girl, like he'll tell Lil Allen point blank, I'm not into you. I got a girlfriend. And Betty will go, don't lie just because I'm here, Peter Parker. Dude, he just said, I have a girlfriend. You should be happy that he didn't go with the other chick.
Yeah, Betty Brant is a terrible character in these issues. I am not a Betty Brant fan by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't think James is either, but she is just written so poorly in these issues that she's a classic Silver Age girlfriend, but she sucks in more than one way. See, now that was a bad joke. That was a bad joke. But what's your grade on this issue, James?
A. Because there's a lot of really cool things about this issue I like, and it's one of the classic Spider-Man gives up, and the last panel he throws the costume in the trash, and then he pulls it out of the trash. That would, of course, be done again with issue 50, and then homaged 100 times from that one. And it's all in all just pretty much a good, decent issue of Spider-Man, and it's one of those great stories where it's like Peter gives up all hope, and then because of something, he just has to come back, and he pulls the costume out of the trash, and he's got the power and responsibility again, and he's ready to take on any newcomers.
All right, my review of this issue. What did I like about this issue? Well, first of all, I loved the kind of public reaction to Spider-Man giving up and Spider-Man supposedly running away. I really liked how we really got inside the heads of the New Yorkers and the supervillains and the other superheroes as to, oh my gosh, why did Spider-Man run away? They're coming up with all these theories. They're saying, oh, well, Spider-Man's not the man we thought he was. I really did like that. I felt that that was a good thing for them to do. I felt that one of the big strengths of the Lee Ditko era of Spider-Man books is that they did show a lot of public reaction to the character, and that is highlighted here. I really, really like that they did that. Of course, J. Jonah Jameson being his classic self, using every possible opportunity to just smash Spider-Man and trash Spider-Man. You know, that's classic Jonah right there. It's absolutely fantastic, and we love it. He's a 60s villain. You know, he's a 60s cartoon villain, but that's just how 60s writing was. So I'm not really going to fault it for that. You know, that's just how people were written in the 60s. So it's not really that big of a deal. As we move along here, one continuity error that I noticed in this issue was Anna Watson, who is Mary Jane Watson's aunt. They actually call her Mrs. Watkins in this issue. I believe it's this issue. It might actually... No, it is this issue. I'm sorry. I couldn't remember if it was this issue or the next issue. Excuse me. But, yeah, they did actually call her Mrs. Watkins in this issue, and that was a glaring continuity error, because we all know it's actually Mrs. Watson, but whatever. The Flash dressing up as Spider-Man thing, that was actually kind of a dislike for me. I didn't really like that because we've seen it before. We've seen Flash dress up as Spider-Man before. Now, I know it was in a different context when he did it back in issue number 5, but still, we've seen this whole plot of, oh, Flash gets dressed up as Spider-Man and gets the shit beat out of him. We've seen that plot already, so that's kind of a negative for me in this issue because I've seen it already. I don't need to see it again. Another pro for this issue would be, I'm glad Spider-Man finally decided to try and patent and sell his webbing, because a lot of people would ask, oh, why didn't he try to patent and sell and make money off of this stuff when he first created it? Because, I mean, you have an adhesive that strong. If you can make it permanent, that is something that people are going to want to buy. So, obviously, it's nice that he did try to do that in this issue. And, of course, it ended up being nice that he couldn't ultimately sell it because of the fact that it wasn't permanent. A lot of nice continuity callbacks in this issue, like the battles in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 1. Those were nice continuity callbacks and everything. Another con would be Betty Brant. Betty Brant was actually fairly terrible in this issue, like I said before. She's a classic Silver Age girlfriend, but she absolutely sucks.
Don't forget, she bitches at Peter throughout the whole issue earlier about cheating on her with Liz Allen by just saying hi and stuff like that at the fan club. So what she do this issue? Goes out with Ned Leeds.
Yeah, that's another trivia point I was going to bring up, is that this is the first introduction of Ned Leeds, and a little trivia point here is that his hair is actually a different color than it is in later issues. Even issues, just this issue, his hair is actually a different color than it is, I believe, in number 20. But yeah, only a comic book geek would notice that, but still, it's something I noticed.
It's essential.
Yeah. But, yeah, and then the final scene of this issue, I really liked Aunt May basically giving Peter a pep talk when he basically quit being Spider-Man, and she kind of indirectly convinces him to return to the web. So I really like that. I always like when Aunt May is kind of the voice of reason. She was kind of that in the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and I felt that was a very good role for her, and I always like seeing it here in the comics. I always like seeing Aunt May encouraging Peter, saying things and doing things that indirectly help him with his life as Spider-Man. I always really like that, so I feel that that's a good bit of the issue. As a grade, I'd give this one an A-. I liked it quite a bit. It's actually an issue that was better than I remembered it being. I'd read this issue once before I went back and reread it for this podcast. And I have to say, this is an issue that was better than I remember it being. I thought I remembered this issue being like C quality, but this issue, I gave it an A-. I felt it was really, really good. So, James, final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 18?
Pretty good issue, guys. If you got a chance to pick this one up, pick it up.
Yes. All right. And so, as we move along here, we're going to move on to Amazing Spider-Man number 19 now, Spidey Strikes Back. This one is guest starring the Human Torch, the Sandman, and the Enforcers. So, James, break the issue down for us and give us a grade.
Again, this is another classic one. It's pretty much part 3 of the Green Goblin story and the issue 18. And it's a nice little where he's finally back, and I love this. I love the Jonah panel where it's like the 3 or 4 shots where he goes from super big grin, and the guy's whispering in his ear about Spider-Man's back and fighting crime, and his grin goes from being the biggest grin you'll ever see, like the Grinch Stole Christmas size grin, and it slowly by each panel gets smaller and smaller until he's like disgusted because, oh my god, he's back.
Yeah, that was a fairly good series of panels. I actually really did like that. But what else, James?
I don't really care for the Enforcers as villains, and Sandman is not really another popular villain I really like. I can handle the guy, but it's just not when I think of my top. Like, you obviously see my top 10 list, he wasn't on it.
Yeah, I think he was on. I don't actually remember what my top 10 list was. I'd have to go back and re-listen to that podcast. But I think he was on mine solely for Spider-Man 3. I don't remember what rank he was, though. I literally threw that top 10 list together like 5 minutes before the show. So, yeah. But what else, James?
Just not much. It's just you get more of Peter, Ben, and Ned in that kind of love triangle that I think everybody who's ever been in a relationship has kind of had a situation like that. I know I have.
Yeah, love triangles, not fun.
Well, because I was kind of in a similar situation as Peter when I was in high school with a girlfriend, to the point that it was right when I picked the Essentials, and it was spooky how it was kind of like life imitating art. Because I was going through a breakup at the time with a girlfriend, and I tried to be just friends with her at the same time, a.k.a. hoping to get back with her. And she started dating another guy, so I'm like pretending to be nice to her new boyfriend, and at the same time I just wanted to secretly punch this guy in the face.
Oh, I've had that feeling. I've had that, believe me.
What Peter goes through in these Ditko issues with Ned.
Yeah, I've had that where I've wanted to punch a guy in the face because he's dating the girl I like. Yeah, I've had that. But what's your grade on this issue, James?
I give this one a C. It's not as good as the first 2 parts, but it's mainly because that C just for those Jonah panels. Because if anybody wants to see classic Ditko art and why he was so great in these early issues, go to those panels where he goes from the Grinch that stole Christmas, super gigantic grin, to being the most biggest frown and disgusted look on his face. It's just classic. That's all I can say.
All right. And as for my review of this issue, I have to say I didn't like James. I didn't enjoy this issue as much as the previous issues. I mean, I gave 17 and 18. I gave both of those issues A minuses, and honestly, I didn't feel that this issue really lived up to those issues. Like James, I'm also going to give this issue a C. I didn't feel it was quite as strong. First of all, I felt the action sequences in this issue were fairly boring. They didn't really keep me engaged or intrigued as they went along, and that's a flaw I have. It's like, when I get bored because of the action sequences, then you can tell that something's wrong with the story, and it's just, the action sequences in this issue just didn't work for me. They really didn't. I didn't feel that they were anything special, and I didn't feel that they really added much to the actual story itself. In terms of other cons in this issue, how did Spider-Man know that Sandman and the Enforcers teamed up? Because here's the thing, it is established that Sandman and the Enforcers are both back because he establishes that Sandman's back in the previous issue because he clashes with him there. Excuse me. And in this issue, he clashes with the Enforcers right at the beginning. There is no way that he could have known that Sandman and the Enforcers teamed up because it wasn't public knowledge. So, how he knew that Sandman and the Enforcers teamed up, I don't know. But, yeah, it really didn't. I mean, unless I missed something in this issue, it really doesn't add up. And that's kind of a con for me. In terms of pros for this issue, I felt that this was a fairly solid team-up between Spider-Man and the Human Torch. I especially liked the bit where Spider-Man and the Human Torch get tangled in Spidey's webbing. I felt that that was a fairly good use of comedy towards the end of the issue, and it ultimately worked well enough. And I also felt that they had a good cliffhanger in this issue with the guy following Peter home and reporting back to his boss saying, you know, you are to watch that kid at all costs. I will learn the secret or whatever. So it was a good cliffhanger, but overall, I didn't have a lot to say about this issue. I gave it a C, which is about a mediocre rating for me. I didn't feel it was anything special, but it wasn't terrible. Basically, it's not good, but it's not bad. It just kind of was. So it's not a great issue. It's not a terrible issue. It's just an issue. So final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 19, James?
It's a good issue. I've been rereading these as we've been going over them, quickly skimming through them, and I get to one of the final panels with Betty, and this is going to be my Joshua Bertoni moment, where I go, you stupid bitch, you're wondering why he's not upset or whatever it is, because, oh, I was hoping to get him jealous. Did I really lose him because he's trying to be nice to me because I'm dating another guy? No! Maybe it's because he's heartbroken, but he doesn't want to act like a jerk because you gave him hell at these past few issues for supposedly dating another chick when he wasn't, when he was actually out being Spider-Man, and you're publicly dating another man, but you're wondering why he's not upset about it.
Yeah. That Betty Brant is a terribly written character. Just in these issues, I a couple weeks ago I gave praise to Betty's writing because of the whole death of her brother thing. Now that story arc is pretty much over, she's back to just being the terrible Silver Age girlfriend that she's known for being. So yeah, that was pretty bad. But my final thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man number 19. It's an okay issue. It's not anything special, but it's okay. Not great, but not terrible. So, and finally today, our final review of the day will be Amazing Spider-Man number 20. So, James, break down the issue for us and give us a grade.
It's, again, this is the first Scorpion. It's a pretty good fight. I kind of didn't like how they just kind of quickly wrapped up the whole thing with who's the mystery man, how it's in the first page, how it's like Peter Spider senses tingling, and then the guy wrote it off as, oh, Jonah hired him, and now new change of plan. You're not going to find out Peter's secret. You're going to become a Scorpion guy to fight him. It kind of felt like they were on a rush a new story because what they originally planned, either Stan Lee forgot, which is probably what happened, or he came up with a new idea out of nowhere and said, okay, we're going to change the plan. We're going to make this guy a supervillain. Where it clearly looks like the shadowy guy he's working for in the last issue was set up to be the supervillain. Maybe the Green Goblin, and it was going to finish off the issue 17 because they never really finished that fight, but not really. It ended up just being, oh, Jonah paid this guy, and this guy's now Scorpion.
Yeah, that is something to talk about with the issue. But what else, James?
Well, speaking of the Green Goblin, Ned Leeds is going away to Europe, which is kind of weird because people still, all the time he was gone, still accused him in the letter pages of being the Green Goblin, and then they accused him of being the Jekyll, and then they accused him of being the Hobgoblin to the point that they did make him the Hobgoblin. So yeah.
Well, he wasn't really the Hobgoblin. He was, that whole story is.
But I always felt bad for Ned because if you do look back at these old issues from like the 60s and 70s and 80s, anytime they introduce a new mystery villain, the people were like, it's Ned. It's got to be Ned. It's Ned.
It's Ned Leeds. Just, we're throwing it out there right now. Oh my gosh, it's Dr. Octopus in disguise. Oh, well, it's obviously Ned Leeds in disguise.
Yeah, Doc Ock's really Ned.
Yeah. Doc Ock is not Otto Octavius. He's just Ned Leeds with a bodysuit or whatever.
Yeah.
But what's your grade, James?
I would give this one a solid A. I mean, Scorpion, I think is really great because it's the parallel. Peter's with great power comes great responsibility, and Scorpion is the whole kind of with great power comes great fun. I mean, he gets these powers, and first thing he thinks of, well, the hell with fighting Spider-Man. I took him down. I can use these powers for whatever the hell I want. I can rob banks. I can beat the crap out of all the people who gave me shit all my life. This is awesome. And then he finds out that the costume's going to be stuck on him forever because the doctor died when he tried to save him, and he let the guy die. So now you got the whole his stick of him blaming Jonah because the costume's stuck on him forever because the scientist that could get him out of it, he killed.
Yeah, that's... Alright, but as for my review of this issue, I felt that this was a better issue than issue number 19. Again, I didn't like that the mystery following guy was wrapped up so quickly. I mean, it was wrapped up within the first 4 pages. I felt that could have been dragged out a little bit more and kind of elongated. And ultimately, I felt that it should have been a bigger mystery. But you know what? It is kind of 60s writing, so I guess I kind of can give it a free pass. But it is just kind of disappointing that ultimately the mystery was wrapped up within the first few pages of this issue. I kind of would have liked it if had they set this up maybe at the end of number 17 or number 18, so we at least would have had a few issues to dwell on it a bit. But no, they just kind of set it up at the end of the last arc, and now here in this issue, they're immediately going off with revealing his identity. Didn't really like that, but you know what? I guess I can get past it. It's not something that's going to make or break the issue. The main thing in this issue for me was the action sequences. I loved the action sequences in this issue. First of all, Steve Ditko's art was absolutely gorgeous. It was on top form in this issue. Absolutely loved it. And I loved the way he drew battle damage Spider-Man. The rips in his costume were consistent. I loved the way he drew them. Battle damage Spider-Man looked absolutely fantastic from start to finish. And it was actually consistent, which is something I can't normally say about Spider-Man, battle damage Spider-Man art, which is, because ultimately when they do battle damage Spider-Man, a lot of times artists will forget that he's battle damaged from panel to panel. Not here. That doesn't happen here. It's consistent and it's solid, and I absolutely loved it. And, as for the action sequences themselves, they were fairly solid, fairly engaging, and I really, really enjoyed them. I don't have too much to say on this issue. Unlike the previous issue, this was an issue that I don't have a lot to say on because it really was just an enjoyable issue. As a grade, I'd give this one a B+. The cons of this issue, again, Betty Brant, didn't like her, but of course we never like her. And I just didn't feel that this issue was quite A-worthy, but ultimately it was a good enough issue where I would give it a B+. I'll give it a fairly positive score of a B+. So ultimately, B+ out of me, solid A out of James. So James, final thoughts on any of the books we reviewed today?
Not much because I already went over what I mostly want to say about them. It's just these are some really cool classic Spider-Man issues. It's classic Ditko, Stan Lee. Ironic enough, these are the last 3 issues of the first Essential, so to keep that theme going on. But that's about it.
Yeah, the Essentials. It's a shame that the Essentials are being canceled. It really is. But fairly decent marks out of us this week. We gave 3 out of 4 books positive grades. So you know what? That's fairly good. I mean, we did get a lot of crap a couple weeks ago because everyone listening to this podcast was saying, oh, you're such a negative podcast. But I gotta say, we've been turning up the positivity here because the Spider books we've been reviewing have been going up in quality. I gotta say, because, Ultimate 200 was a very good book. Superior's been very much stronger since the start of Goblin Nation. The satellite titles have been stronger ever since probably the start of Goblin Nation as well. I mean, we're getting positive on this podcast, which is actually a nice little refreshing change. But as we move on to the final bit of the podcast, we're not going to do listener questions this week, mainly because I'm pretty sure you guys would want the entire panel's answer to those questions, not just two out of the three of us. So we're not going to do listener questions this week. We'll save those for next week. But we do have one little bit of spoiler news here, and that is the Amazing Spider-Man 2 Think Bigger clip. We're just going to give our quick general thoughts on this little clip here because it's only about 45 seconds long, not very long at all. But James, do you have any thoughts on the Think Bigger clip?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I don't really got much thoughts about it. I just thought it was just, like I said, a pretty nice clip. It's just Electro being, villain, tell his origin. Kind of you get where Harry's, working on him to make him more powerful.
Yeah, I mean, this clip, it wasn't really anything special. Excuse me. It wasn't really anything special. It's cool to kind of see Electro and Harry sort of teaming up. I like that Electro's initial reaction to Harry was, I should kill you. But then Harry just persuades him saying, come on, I'm not the one you want. Spider-Man's the one you want. You want to kill him, not me. I kind of like that. I felt that was fairly solid. But overall, there really isn't a lot to talk about with this clip. It was just an enjoyable clip. It was a cool look at the movie. And so I liked it. I mean, do we have any thoughts on either of the two characters that were featured in this clip?
I was wondering how they're going to pull off him going from Peter Parker's his best friend to being, evil Green Goblin Harry, and that thing really shocked me. It was a very kind of spooky, you don't really want to fight me. You want to kill Spider-Man. That is Goblin all the way.
That is Goblin all the way, because the Goblin is one manipulative son of a bitch, and he really would manipulate Electro into doing his bidding. So ultimately, that was a fairly nice thing. I'm really liking Electro's voice in this movie. As I've said before, I'm really liking Electro's voice. I think it's very, very solid. And I think Jamie Foxx is doing an absolutely great job with Electro. Dane DeHaan and Jamie Foxx, they're doing an absolute great job with Electro and Harry. But any other thoughts on this clip, James?
It's just a small, 45 seconds or 30 seconds or something like that. So I think we went over mostly everything I would talk about it. Just Harry looks nuts.
Yeah, Harry does. Harry, I gotta say, he's coming off as really one insane guy in these clips, and it's actually kind of fairly scary.
Yeah, this is one Harry Osborn that I would not want to go anywhere near.
Yeah, Dane DeHaan is really doing a good job as Harry. Really excellent job.
Because James Franco had more of it's a revenge thing where he's just doing this to get revenge for his father's death, and then after that he would go on with his normal life. No, this guy seems like Norman Osborn nuts out of his mind.
It's probably because of the Goblin formula. I mean,
yeah.
Maybe at some point, it's probably going to be like halfway through the movie, or maybe even earlier than that, they give Harry the Goblin formula, and ultimately that is what drives him insane. That's probably going to be what ends up happening.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Now you bring that up, that's got to be it. It's got to be Norman tricks his son going, before I die, take this formula so I can see if this thing works or not, and surprise, surprise, he's just using Harry to see, if the thing will kill him or not. And it makes Harry go insane.
Yeah. All right, but final thoughts on this clip?
Just like I said last week, steer clear of Norman if you're ever in the Marvel universe because of how nuts he is. If you're ever in the movie universe, steer clear from Harry.
Yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for the spoiler news this week, and that's also going to do it for this week's episode of the SpiderNerd podcast. It's a short one, we know, but it wasn't really a lot to talk about this week, and plus we didn't have Thomas here, so that cut down probably about on about half an hour worth of talking. So, yeah, but
here.
What?
It wasn't as controversial without him here.
Yeah, I mean, we bust Thomas's balls all the time, but I mean, Thomas is a good guy. He really is. But
yeah, he knows we're just ribbing him. It's no different than what I do on AGR every week. We rib each other.
Yeah, it's fun. It's all in good fun here. But James, final words for the listeners before we sign off.
Just tune in to my other podcast, tune into the show, and if you want to talk to me, just give me an instant message on any of the boards I'm on, like SpiderNerd and whatever, and I'm more than happy to friend you and talk to you about Spider-Man and stuff.
All right, and my final words for the listeners are: keep checking out SpiderNerd.com. Check out Angel Grove Radio, James's podcast. Check out Thomas's YouTube channel, the Darman or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just check out SpiderNerd.com. We always have fun stuff there. And, we will see you guys next week.
I got one more thing first.
Oh, wait.
Tonight's WrestleMania, so I just got to say one thing. And if there are any of our wrestling fans listening to it, you know what I'm probably going to say. Yes! 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 Come on, Daniel. Bring home the title. Okay, that's it.
All right. And my final words for the listeners, on your left.